ladies and gentlemen. It has been another exciting week. Very interesting things going on all around the world. This is Jeff Rains with Foundation of Civilization, and coming to you to bring you some of the highlights of events around the world and watching the changes that are occurring and what those events tell us, the significant events tell us about those changes that are happening. To start off with, oil. West Texas crude was at, or intermediate was at $70.74. Brent was at $74.74. The OPEC baskets was at $76.24. Gold, gold was trying to break through the $3,000 barrier, but ended up at $2,893.70. Silver was tracking following gold at $32.65. The Baltic Exchange Dry Good Index, an indicator of how well economies are doing around the world, retracted a little bit to $792. Wars continue. Still no word on any updates between Pakistan and Afghanistan. That seems to have died down a little bit, but who knows for certain. Some of the aircraft flights that I was able to find this past week suggest that there is a significant presence of U.S. aircraft over northern Mexico. The USS America continues operating in the Philippine Sea. The USS George Washington is in Yokosuka, Japan. The USS Carl Vinson headed into the. All right, I hope I pronounced this one correctly, but it's near the Philippines in the Celebes Sea, and it's participating in Exercise Pacific Stellar 2025. The last report we had was the USS Abraham Lincoln was at its home port in San Diego. The Harry S. Truman embarked after a stop at Suda Bay, Greece on the 6th of February. However, we had the Truman had a very bad incident. There was a collision between the USS Harry S. Truman and a Panama-flagged bulk carrier, MV Besiktas-M. This was north of the Suez Canal. I Apparently the Truman was not using its AIS indicator to indicate its location, so that they could have avoided this incident. It was unclear to me whether the Truman was heading south into the Suez Canal or had departed the Suez Canal, was headed north out of the Suez Canal. But there were no there was some significant damage to the aircraft carrier, but and it's going to port to be evaluated, but it's still underway. Both ships were still underway, and no significant casualties were reported. The USS Nimitz remains off the coast of Southern California. My guess is well, they say that they're conducting operations. My guess is that they're actually looking at the cartels in northern Mexico. USS Tripoli returned to its home port of San Diego at last report. The USS Wasp departed Earl, New Jersey, and returned to Norfolk, Virginia. The USS H.W. Bush departed Norfolk and is conducting operations in the eastern Atlantic. The USS Gerald R. Ford returned to Norfolk, Virginia, and the USS Iwo Jima, at last report, remains in Norfolk. In Europe, the DAX was at 21,513.42. FTSE was at 8,732.46. CAC 40 was at 8,178.54. The IBEX was at 12,956. And on the personal level, the prices continue to rise and cause problems for the average European just trying to make ends meet. In fact, last report a few weeks ago, I heard that a lot of them who enjoy skiing, snow skiing, have had to not visit, not go to these slopes and enjoy one of their favorite sports. In Romania, President Klaus Iohannis resigned ahead of an impeachment vote. In Germany, 36 people were killed in a car ramming attack in Munich, Germany, by an Afghan asylum. It was noted by one of the local law officials that uh, he had an Islamic motive. As the police were arresting him, he was crying Allahu Akbar. A Russian drone ended up hitting the protective shield at the old Chernobyl nuclear site. It's unclear if there was any damage to the old reactor. I kind of seriously doubt it. They did a pretty good job of sealing that up. Russia lashed out at EU's plans to seize its shadow fleet. Go figure, that's how they make some of their money. And the new U.S. president talked with the Russian president about ending the war in Ukraine, but the details remain unclear. The peace talks, or at this point, I have to call them rumblings, are going on behind the scenes, and the U.S. President is promoting his agenda and his desire to end the conflict. He does, however, leave open the opportunity to defend Ukraine if certain concessions are made, namely the ability to mine rare earth metals in Ukraine. The biggest problem is that many of these mines are in areas currently occupied by Russia. That those mines hold an estimated 500 billion in rare earth metals. Over in Asia, the Nikkei was at 39,149.43. The SSE index was at 3,346.72. The Hang Seng index was at 22,620.33. The BSE Sensex was at 75,939.21. And the Nifty 50 was at 22,929.25. Money continues to flow to the Taliban. The U.S. Representative Tim Burchett received a letter from Afghanistan that the United States had given them $10 million. The fear is that there is significantly more money that is going to Afghanistan for nefarious purposes. Some of it we know was being routed through U.S. aid, which has since been shut down. A roadside bomb struck a vehicle carrying miners in southwestern Pakistan, killing 11 people. New coal fire, yes, new coal fire plants in China hit the highest level in 10 years. South Korea's top think tank has lowered economic growth projection, citing the new U.S. president's tariffs or threats of tariffs. China's PLA, according to Taiwan report, China's PLA lacks joint warfare capability despite their rapid modernization. It mm, Connectivity is one of those challenging things in the military. The In the Middle East, Hamas had put hostage releases on hold, but continued to them later this week. Uh, Hamas released 3 prisoners, and several hundred prisoners were released by Israel. Although their activities have been paused, the Houthi rebels have come out of the last few years emboldened, enriched, and with more enemies. So their challenges are going to be greater also. According to the Iranian naval chief, the IRGC chief, he says that they can block the Strait of Hormuz. I'm not sure if they've really tested that or plan to test it, but they're at least making the threats. The new U.S. president says that Iran is very frightened and nervous and longs for a deal with the United States, which kind of makes sense. We wield quite a bit of power, and if we want to impose our will, it causes significant problems for countries like Iran. According to Turkey's president, he refuses to discuss the U.S. president's threatened or proposal to oust Gazans from their quote eternal homeland unquote, and it says this is unworthy of discussion. Now, I have to note that it is also interesting that the current president's family has significant investments in the Middle East, golf courses, resorts, uh, hotels, and they've they've identified the Middle East as a growing area, and that they're putting money into that area, like many smart investors are doing. A bit of good news. With over 160 million followers on TikTok, and I hope they get this guy's name right. Kobe Lamy has made a name for himself. He he initially started doing videos, but he a problem is he only speaks Italian, so he wanted to expand his viewers and struck upon the idea of doing videos mocking other people, solving problems with simple solutions, and solving the problems that they present with simple solutions. And he didn't talk at all. He just presented hand gesture. His fame vaulted him into international stardom, and now he has been named a worldwide ambassador for UNICEF, Goodwill Ambassador. Uh, I wish him very, very much luck and continued success in TikTok. And actually, there's been kind of a backlash because people have figured out he's just doing silly things. He pointed out this how silly some people are, and It, it was very simple. I'm like, well, yes, sometimes that's all it takes. Okay, enough of that happiness. 25 miners were killed and 13 injured as terrorists ambushed their vehicles in northwestern Mali. And uh, in case you haven't noticed, I have switched to Africa. The Islamic State has been getting attacked. They have regrouped in Somalia, and they still have global ambition. And I believe it was last week I noted that the United States had struck locations in Somalia that were controlled by the Islamic State. South Africa in South Africa, their president promises to seize white farms. Those farmers are finding support in the new U.S. president, and they held a rally this past week, cheering on his support. Uh, in Congo, the Congo-Rwandan conflict continues. Rwandan-backed rebels advanced into eastern Congo's second major city of Bukavu. At least at least 55 civilians were killed by militia fighters in northeastern Congo, which I believe that's directly related. In the Americas, the Dow Jones Industrial Average ended at 44,546 and 8 cents. The S&P was at 6,114 6.63, and the Nasdaq was at $20,026.77. The new administration, under the new administration, the Tulsi Gabbard was confirmed as the director of national security, and Robert F. Kennedy, the nephew of John F. Kennedy and son of Robert F. Kennedy, was confirmed as Secretary of Health and Human Services. Both of those people have had a significant amount of opposition by a number of people, especially those people who are concerned about how those agencies have been run. They they both were victims of the agencies that they now oversee. Now, aside from the previously mentioned collision of the Harry S. Truman, for the at least for the Navy had another problem. This time in San Diego, a Navy EA-18G Growler crashed into San Diego Bay. They were immediately rescued by a fishing vessel. This week, the targeting of cartels continues, and currently we've been able to identify 18 ISR flights that have been conducted to support them. Uh, Additional indicators suggest that more assets are flying over northern Mexico, preparing to target the cartels. And this is across Mexico, both on the western side and on the eastern side of the Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America side, however you want to look at it. This week, an improvised explosive device was detonated in a maintenance facility in El Paso, Texas. Now, it's unclear at this moment if this was related to the work site or whether this might be something bigger. The explosion was minor, but the proximity to the border leads one to question if this might be part of something bigger. More investigations need to be held, and I will try to keep my eye on this. Although there's quite a few things going on all over the world, as as I noted earlier. Tom Homan, the border czar, was very direct in his condemnation of leaks of ICE raids in LA. He is threatening prosecution and suggests he already knows that the leaks came from the FBI. I don't, I still don't seem to, I still can't believe that some people have not figured out that there is a new administration and that some of the shenanigans that they were engaged in before are not going to be tolerated anymore. But they'll figure that out fairly quickly, or they'll be behind bars along with some of the criminal gang members. Another incident happened in Lincoln Heights, Ohio. A group of neo Nazis displayed their flag over a bridge. They, hilariously, they were assaulted. The car was damaged and vandalized. In response to these neo Nazis demonstration, armed locals set up checkpoints to search for other Nazis. It was interesting as and people have to be careful. The local police and the local armed militia or vigilantes, however you want to look at them, they have to they have to understand that they don't want to be going out and attacking innocent individuals, people who are not Nazis, people who probably support them. The Middle East Forum's multi-year study of U.S. aid in the State Department spending has uncovered 164 million of approved grants to radical organizations, with at least 122 million going to groups aligned with designated terrorists and their supporters. This is from a report that was published on February 4th. As the new administration goes through making cuts, I think it's significant to note that there is a University of Auburn study that shows that for every bureaucrat in Washington, D.C., it costs the U.S. economy 138 jobs, which is important, especially since we found out that the Bureau of Labor Statistics was counting jobs differently than the Philly Federal Reserve, who conducts their surveys separately. Apparently, there were 2 million fake jobs that were reported by the BLS, and the Philly Federal Reserve has updated their numbers, and they showed that back in 2022, in the second quarter, when the BLS reported a million new jobs, the Philly Federal Reserve updated numbers show it was only 10,500. This is important for us because as we are cutting money from the budget, money that's been wasted and thrown away through fraudulent claims, we uh, we need that money to be able to go to families who really need it. Even before the Doge Group started digging into the U.S. Treasury system, the GAO identified an estimated $2.7 trillion in fraudulent payments since 2003. I don't know about you, but 2.7 trillion is quite a bit of money. We're 3.6 trillion dollars in debt officially. Unofficially, it's more like 300 trillion. And well, we could cut out a big portion of it, almost 10% of that, if we were able to cut off these fraudulent payments. Now, it still it still really bothers me, and I wonder what the last admin was doing with our money while people in Illinois, Hawaii, Tennessee, North Carolina, and now California suffer from natural disasters, natural or rather unnatural disasters. I've been wondering what the last admin was doing with our money while people of Illinois, Hawaii, Tennessee, North Carolina, and now California suffer from natural disasters. Well, we found out that the bureaucrats think that the administration has not changed and they can continue to send money to New York City for illegals to live in luxury hotels. Instead of helping U.S. citizens who were sleeping in tents, FEMA employees sent 59 million to New York, or where they were prepared to. Fortunately, that money has been clawed back, and the FEMA director and manager, actually, I believe there are four of them, who was ignoring the new administration's directive, has been fired. Nope, let me correct that. They have been put on leave. My guess is that that's in preparation for them being fired. This past week, in the Department of Education, they found 89 contracts worth $881 million that have been canceled. One of these contracts for $1.5 million was to, quote, observe mailing and clerical operations, unquote, at a mail center. The the EPA canceled a $50 million contract grant given to Climate Justice Alliance. Another 167 contracts saving 115 million were canceled. One of these contracts was for 2.2 million, 2.23 million for equity assessments of existing program policies. The bigger numbers, though, where you have found out that 50 to 100 billion dollars just outright fraud is being perpetrated by, on the Social Security system. Some people from are getting paid by the Social Security Administration with no name or no Social Security number associated with payments. I thought we were supposed to have programs to prevent this. What exactly is going on? Another 516 billion per year has been identified as going out to expired programs. Some of these programs expired 40 years ago. It is staggering to me what Congress and the bureaucrats have been approving through the budgets with such little control. They wanted 87,000 IRS agents to do forensic audits on us, on our bank accounts, but they refused to allow the public to see what they're spending our tax money on. The question is, where is the money going? How is it the Congress has not caught any of this? Probably because they are getting paid off, them and the bureaucrats. It has been identified that a previous USAID leader came into her position with $6.7 million and left with a value of $30 million. This on a salary of $180,000 a year. I wonder where the difference, what would that be? 30 million, 6.7 minus 6.7, 23 million, 22 million dollars. Where did the additional $22 million come from? Additionally, we have a governor in the governor of Illinois. His family had 64 NGOs. More money laundering. All of these revelations have shaken Washington, D.C., and the searches, I just have to laugh at this. Searches for criminal defense attorneys surged this week. Thank goodness. I certainly hope it will be necessary as people were taking food out of the mouths of children, withholding funding from families who are suffering from the noted emergencies, who needed housing, and I hope I hope the people that were perpetrating this fraud are prosecuted and forced to pay back all of their grift. In fact, I kind of hope that they get to go live in tents out in the Arizona desert, as some people have learned. Some criminals in Arizona have learned. Unfortunately, that sheriff is retired, so I don't think he. Well, I don't know. Maybe he's willing to come back and make a comeback, or maybe somebody with similar attitudes and ideas are willing to come back, are willing to come and administer a facility for us. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have actually run very long today, and I hope that you guys are doing well. I also posted another video actually this morning, or yes, yeah, well, no, it was this morning, uh, uh, on Friday well, it's Saturday right now, the 15th when I'm recording this. This will probably go out. I'm hoping it'll go out later tonight. Maybe it'll go back the maybe I'll have to get it out tomorrow or Monday, early Monday morning. Like I said, please watch the changes, watch the undercurrents of what's going on, and remember that they are making plans behind the scenes that we're not privy to, but we can see the results and see what's happening and uh, kind of see the ripple effect as it goes. These changes float throughout society. Please like, share, and subscribe. Remember to hug your loved ones, and much love to everybody. And I hope that you all have a wonderful week and are doing well, have done well this week. And this is Jeff Rains with Foundation of Civilization, signing out for this week.